And my greatest, I say greatest fear, a fear I have is because I expect I'm going to play well, and there'll be days when I'm playing well and in hand of a good score, or I'm on top of someone in a match play perspective is giving it away. In the in the past, when I've been like that, things get a bit quick and twitchy, um, and then the bad shots appear purely from overthinking, over expectation. It's easy to read about and listen to, staying in the moment, stick to your process, which continue to do that. But the excitement builds, heart rate goes, and that's where I think quick and twitchy, are turning into bogeys. Whereas in the you're in a more free flowing aspect when it's coming. I really like to see what your thoughts are on how to try and stay in that zone or reduce the performance degrading as you get excited.
Yeah, so this is quite interesting because it's usually people that say it's the other way round, right? It's that things aren't going well, and then the anxiety, then the mistakes come in, and then the non-free flowing experience they've got happens because they're actually anxious and they're nervous about what's going on, which is natural. But there is another side to that. There's the excitement level, and many people will talk about this whole idea of reframing nerves and excitement as the same thing. And I've thought about this, and I've really tried to think about what people mean by that. But in my experience, the way I see it is whether you're, I also throw anger and frustration in this mix as well. So if someone is angry, frustrated, or they're anxious, or they're excited, all that's happening in both of those, all of those experiences, is that you are creating energy. It's creating energy in your body. So excitement is that high anticipation, high heart rate, everything becomes, yeah, fast, twitchy, as you describe it. Same for nerves and anxiety, right? You start to high heart rate, adrenaline, sweaty palms, maybe jelly legs. It's some form of energy that's building within you. And then same for anger. If you're angry and frustrated, you see it on a tennis court where players start to get angry at what they're doing. They're smashing rackets, they're going at umpires, and they're doing all sorts. And all I believe is that when those any of those scenarios are happening, so in this case, excitement, it is just a misdirection of the energy that you're using. So in anxiety, for example, if someone's nervous about an experience, I believe they're misdirecting their anxiety at the wrong thing, which is the fear of what could happen in the future or the regret of what's happened in the past. So it's I'm directing this energy, this mental energy, sometimes even physical energy, towards hoping the thing that I don't want to happen might happen. When it's excitement, it's potentially taking your foot off the gas and going, it's all easy. And the energy goes towards almost reducing focus on what is important. And you're 3 holes ahead of, oh, okay, well, I could win the next hole. And then I go next hole, next hole. It's a misdirection of the energy. Anger, when someone is angry, they get angry, and that energy that they create, they direct it towards the mistake that they've made, or lashing out at an opponent, getting in a conflict, maybe lashing out at their coach, teammates, umpires, referees, whatever it is a misdirection of the energy that they have. So I believe it's not essentially an excitement problem or a skill problem. It's just a focus problem. It's focusing in on what is important. Okay, so and basically, yes, trying to get back into the present moment, which is harder to do when you are thinking 3, 4 holes ahead of like what could happen. I could be lifting the trophy today. I could be beating this person, or the level at which I could be beating this person because I feel so good. But we know also at the same time there is a truism about any sport, is that sport can change on a dime. Your luck can change on a dime. So with excitement, with anxiety, if someone has an anxious mind, they're essentially starting to recognize threat more, right? So they're recognizing the same way our human psychology is built through millennia. We have developed this part of our brain to analyze threat and to detect it and then do something about it. And if you're an anxious person, you're thinking, "Oh, what happens if that happens in the future?" But a great athlete would be someone who not necessarily tries to get rid of the anxiety, but just adds their more conscientious mind of being able to be productive and do something about it and start to plan for what happens when that happens. So if I think of what happens if the player starts to in a tennis match starts to drop shot against me, like what do I do then? Well, plan for it, and actually, if you're conscientious, you'll think about how you might play that, and then that planning can create a bit more confidence in what you're doing. But when it comes to excitement, it is a case of getting ahead of yourself and the story that you're telling yourself. And I believe, like you said, how do you get back to the process? What is the process? And I think that the first question back to you would be, do you have an understanding of your process? And sometimes even what has got you to the place of playing well in a round. Could you be able to describe that in a simple form as you possibly might be able to?
I mean, from a pre-shot routine, I think I'm fairly solid on that, regardless of how well I'm playing. I try not to shortcut that in the days where it's not going well. Okay, I don't want to overthink it, but at the same time, when I'm playing well, I still want to approach it in a still walking into the ball with the same way. I'm still aligning myself. I'm still taking the same number of practice swings. I try to be diligent and keeping my strategy the same. Now, of course, in a match play aspect, that's different, but golf is nearly always stroke play. So, depending on the weather, you're playing a hole in a way, and then only changing that depending on where you've hit the shot to. But I like to think I'm fairly regimented in that. And regardless of this conversation, I would still like to base myself on that. You know, I'm going to still approach this the same way, because I see on the TV when you see guys that are getting nearer the finish line and they start coming into the ball and then walking away from it and then having a conversation with their caddy about changing clubs. It's like you can tell they're just overthinking it, and they're either being afraid or the adrenaline's just forcing them not to settle. So it's, how can I settle? You know what? Got your strategy, pick a club, commit, and just commit the same as you were. That's is going to be my approach, I think. Ignore the future story, also ignore the past story, just literally one shot at a time, which sounds super boring, but
Yeah,
I
totally.
don't think there's any other way in that. And that ties in with what I said earlier about my approach is going to be, let's just play with the skills and experience I've got and see where that gets me. Because as soon as you start thinking about it from a results perspective, you're potentially just going to just disappoint yourself or be surprised, which is great. But to be surprised, you've got to play well. Don't let the expectation get in the way. Just play it. Whatever you've got, luck will be what it is.